I'm Dr. Connie. I'm your host of Mind Your Health podcast. I share my unique perspective both as a practitioner and a patient battling autoimmune condition for over 25 years because I had to figure things out on my own, and my education and my practical approach as a patient allows me to truly integrate it so that you can be whole and the burden of sick care is no longer your own burden to carry. And this is what we help you with in this podcast. Hi, this is Mind Your Health podcast, and it's Dr. Connie. I hope you guys are all having a nice holiday. Today, in the light of Christmas and the holidays around the corner, wanted to talk about something that might be on the minds of many of you. It's all about family. The family matters, right? It's very personal. And I just want to hash this out to better navigate this stressful time. If it is stressful, I think a lot of us don't even know that we're stressed around family. We just know that it's something that we might dread or something might be triggered and emotions run very high. And I think it's really important to understand why sort of that is and to have a better plan so that we can go through this holiday with love and embrace everybody in your family, because family is complicated. It's where we're shaped, supported, and somewhat hurt. It's where love and expectation often collide, leaving us with feelings we don't always know how to navigate. For me, the story of family is deeply intertwined with my journey. Raised by immigrant parents, I came to the United States when I was just 10 years old, to a new country, a new language, and a world that felt utterly foreign. And the trauma of learning English while trying to manage primary school, of being the youngest in a family where my parents were always working and doing their best to just survive, shaped my earliest experiences. And even though we all grew up in the same household, my siblings and I remember things very differently. Each of us carries our versions of the past, colored by our perspectives. It's taught me that family is never one story, that it's many stories, layered and complex. So it makes sense that each of the siblings has different perspectives and interpretations of what happened. Because even though we all grew up in the same household, the experiences and interpretations of family life can vary widely. Because of genetic factors, individual temperaments, birth order, and unique life events influence this difference. Understanding this helps us to better cope with our past and have more compassion toward our family is why I decided to devote this episode to this topic. So let's talk a little bit about the birth order. I know you guys all kind of know inherently the expectations that we have, because birth order really does play a significant role in shaping a sibling's perspective. Like the eldest, often given more responsibility, they may feel the weight of expectations and interpret family dynamics through the lens of being a trailblazer or a caregiver. And they might remember strict rules and having to set the example. And then there's a middle child syndrome. Frequently, mediators or peacekeepers, middle children may feel overlooked or less defined, leading to a perspective shaped by compromise and independence. The youngest, typically viewed as the family's baby, the youngest might recall more leniency or a sense of being supported and underestimated. And these rules aren't set in stone, but they frame how siblings interact with their family and view their place within it. So then there is the genetics and the temperament, because each sibling inherits a unique mix of genetic traits from their parents, affecting their personality, temperament, and emotional sensitivity. For example, one sibling might naturally be more empathetic and sensitive, making them perceive family conflicts as profoundly personal. And another might be more resilient or pragmatic, interpreting same conflicts as a minor or inconsequential. And these individual predispositions shape how each sibling reacts to the same situation differently, creating vastly different emotional landscapes. Number 3 is timing of life events.
family dynamics evolve, meaning each sibling experiences the family unit differently depending on their birth. The oldest may recall when the family struggled financially or emotionally, while the youngest might only know more of a stable and prosperous version of the household. And changes in parental stress, job stability, or relationship dynamics can shift the tone of family interactions, resulting in different childhoods for each of the sibling. And then there is the subjective interpretation. People naturally interpret events based on their filters. Siblings are no exception. What feels like strict rules to one child may feel like a protective gesture to another. For example, if a parent sets a curfew, one sibling might see it as a lack of trust, while another view it as care and concern. Similarly, a parent's praise or criticism might land differently depending on each child's self-esteem or sensitivity. This is really true. Those of you who are parents now, you probably understand this, raising your own kids now. Number 5, the family expectations and comparisons. This was a big one for my family. Parents often unintentionally treat siblings differently based on their perceived strengths, weaknesses, or needs. One sibling might be labeled the responsible one, leading to feelings of pressure and achievement-focused behavior. And another might be the free spirit or the sensitive one, shaping their sense of identity and how they respond to dynamics. These labels, whether spoken or implied, color how siblings view themselves and their relationships within the family. Number 6, emotional memory. We all remember events through the emotional lens, which means siblings may recall the same event in drastically different ways. A family move to a new city might feel like exciting adventure to one sibling, but very traumatic upheaval to another. A parent's strict discipline might feel loving and firm to one child, but harsh and unfair to another. The emotions tied to these memories create unique narratives for each sibling, even when the facts of the events are exactly the same. So then you get to think about the mosaic of these perspectives, because in the end, siblings are like different lenses looking at the same picture. Each one's genetic makeup, their role in the family, and personal temperament and life experiences influence how one perceives and interprets family life. And these varied perspectives are why siblings can have such different relationships with their parents, each other, and the family. And understanding and appreciating these differences can be a powerful way to build empathy and connection with the family, even when perspectives clash. It's a reminder that while we share a history, our experiences of that history are uniquely our own. As the youngest daughter and an overachiever, I pushed myself to meet every expectation. But when life took unexpected turns, a divorce and then devastating reality of kidney failure, I felt like I had failed these expectations. And in my family's eyes, I didn't know how to show up as the new me, someone sick and vulnerable. And truthfully, they didn't know how to show up for me either. And that disappointment cut really deep, not just in what family couldn't provide, but in the expectations I had placed on them. And I wanted them to understand, to support me in the ways I thought I needed, but I've realized that these expectations weren't always fair. My parents and siblings have been doing their best, just like me. And over time, I've learned something powerful. I can't control how my family reacts or behaves, but I can control how I respond. I've had to manage what I can change and leave the rest be. This has meant redefining who I am within my family, not the perfect, overachieving daughter, but someone authentic, someone who knows her worth, even when life doesn't look like the ideal picture. And this was a real work I had to do behind the scenes. Setting boundaries has been a big part of that process. Not in a way that shuts them out, but I realized there was a lot of codependency going on. And it was in a way that protects my peace. It was about asking myself, what do I need? And letting that guide my actions rather than what's expected. I'm still figuring things out right now. And maybe I always will be. But I've seen family not as something fixed, but as a living, evolving relationship. And there's grace in understanding that we're all human. shaped by our stories and doing our best. For anyone navigating the complexities of family, know this: it's okay to feel hurt. It's okay to feel joy, and it's okay to want something different. Your growth doesn't mean rejecting where you've come from. It means finding the strength to carry it forward in a way that honors both you, who you are, and who you're becoming. So family hits different, right? And we need to understand our triggers when we're around them. Because even when we've grown, evolved, and built lives around the orbit of our own families, there's something about those closest to us, our parents, siblings, extended relatives, that can hit us in ways no one else can. Here's why. Your family knows the blueprint of you. They've known you from the beginning, your quirks, insecurities, and strengths. And while that shared history can be comforting, it also means that they have the keys to push those deep-seated buttons, sometimes intentionally, but often unknowingly. Number 2 is old roles, new you. Family dynamics stick to old patterns no matter how much you've changed. You might be the independent adult now, but to your family, you could still feel like the baby, the troublemaker, or the overachiever. Being shoved into one outdated role is frustrating, and it triggers a dissonance between who you've become and how they still see you. Number 3 is the weight of expectations. Families come with expectations, spoken or unspoken. You may feel the pressure to be who they want you to be, or struggle with the disconnect between your life choices and their hopes for you. And that tension can lead to a clash, especially during togetherness like the holidays. Family, though, is the foundation. Whether we like it or not, family forms the foundation of our identity. And when friction arises within them, it feels more personal, more primal. And it's not just about what's happening in the moment. It's tied to years of history, belonging, and the instinctual need to feel safe and accepted by those who raised us. Number 5 is unresolved wounds. Family interactions often dredge up unresolved feelings, grievances that were never voiced, misunderstandings that linger, or hurts that were buried instead of healed. Even if you've done the work to grow past them, being back in the same environment can reopen those wounds. How to cope when your family triggers you, because you will be triggered, right? Is number 1, to recognize the pattern. When you feel triggered, pause and identify what's happening. Is it the old role being reinforced? A specific comment? A feeling of being judged? Recognize, separate it from the person, and avoid reacting impulsively. Number 2 is set boundaries. Boundaries aren't about shutting people out, but protecting your peace. Communicate what you need clearly and kindly, whether stepping away from a heated conversation or politely declining an activity. Number 3 is focus on the present. The family often stirs up the past. Instead of falling into old narratives, anchor yourself in who you are now and remind yourself of how far you've come and the person you've worked hard to become. Number 4 is to practice compassion. Family members may not have the tools to see things your way, but that doesn't mean their actions are always malicious. Try to approach interactions with compassion for them and yourself as well. Number 5 is have an exit strategy. If things become too much, yourself, call a friend, walk, or simply step outside to reset. It's better to protect your mental health than to stay in a situation that feels toxic or overwhelming. Number 6 is to lean into your support system. Whether it's friends, a partner, or even a therapist, talk to someone who can validate your feelings and remind you that you're not alone in this experience. So the bottom line, family can trigger us because they're woven into the core of who we are, for better or worse. It's not about rejecting them, but learning how to navigate those relationships in a way that honors your growth and protects your peace. And if you find yourself triggered, take it as a sign, not a failure, but how far you've come and how much you care. So that's all I have for you during these holidays. I hope you guys all have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Please stay safe. I was sick all last week because of a flu. Please be careful. And I will see you guys all next week. Thank you so much for joining me. Talk soon.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Your Health podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, we would so much love it and appreciate it if you share it with someone who could benefit as well as to subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else where podcasts are found. And leave us a review. We would be so grateful, and it helps us to reach more people just like you, so you can become more empowered to enjoy longevity and health. You can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at Dr. Connie Chung. And of course, you can subscribe to this podcast for a new episode every single week. Thank you.